Hey y'all, in today's video, I'm going to be sharing 5 delicious dinner ideas. These are all going to be easy to throw together and just using very simple and few ingredients. Also, all of these meals are going to have a quick cook time. I wanted to put this video together for those of you who are in a busy season of life. We all have them. For me currently, my kids are in softball and baseball, so we're putting in long hours at the ball field, and that can make dinner time tricky sometimes. So I'm sure some of you are in a similar boat, but these meals are designed around those days where you just don't have all day to be standing in the kitchen. Up first, I'm going to be making some baked tacos. Now, the recipe calls for ground beef, but I decided to swap that with ground turkey. And a big reason for that is because it's cheaper than ground beef. So I did go ahead and weigh out a pound of that, and I'll just simply freeze the rest for other meals. But I've got a large skillet out. It's heated to about a medium high heat. And I did decide to spray it with some Pam first before adding in the ground turkey because it has been a long time since I have cooked with ground turkey. I honestly tend to forget about it, but I know it's really low fat and I just didn't want it to stick. But here I've added in a good amount of onion powder because the recipe does say to saute an onion with your meat. So I don't cook with onions, so I swapped it for that. But once it was fully cooked, I went ahead and grabbed my taco seasoning. This one is from Costco. I just went ahead and measured out about a packet's worth. You'll also need about a quarter cup of either beef broth or chicken broth or even water. I probably did a little bit more because I just wanted to use all of that. You'll also need a can of Rotel, juice and all, don't drain it. I always go for the mild version because my kids and husband can't really tolerate that much spice, and Rotel can get pretty spicy if it's anything above mild. So just getting all of that good and incorporated, and then lastly, I'm going to hit it with a little bit of cream cheese. The recipe called for about a tablespoon. I probably did about 2, but I just let that kind of sit there for a few minutes before I went in and started stirring it. That way it kind of melt down a bit and get really soft. That way it'll be a lot easier to coat all of that meat. But I just let that simmer for a few minutes until most of the liquid had evaporated. But that is it for a really simple taco meat that's just a little bit different. But next, I'm going to grab a box of these stand and stuff taco shells. They've got to be the stand and stuff, or otherwise it will not stand up in the casserole dish. And I'm sure a lot of you guys know, but there's different flavors to these taco shells if you want to switch it up. I know they got a Dorito one. There's a Cool Ranch version. I've even seen spicy versions, but we just wanted to go with a plain Jane this time. So just getting those in a 9x13 casserole dish, and I'm gonna bake those at 400 degrees for 5 minutes. So while those are in the oven, I'm going to prep a can of black beans. So all I did was rinse and drain those, and I just laid them in a paper towel lined bowl. That way it could kind of soak up any extra moisture. But I'm just simply taking about a spoonful and layering that into the bottom of each taco shell. Now, if you don't like black beans, pinto beans would be really good. You can also do refried beans. That's a good option. But if you just don't like beans altogether, you would just simply skip this step. You don't have to have it, but I really do like how it made them extra filling. And I'm not serving any sides with this other than the toppings that go on it, but I didn't really feel the need for sides. And also the whole point of this video is to get dinner on the table quickly, so I feel like those beans definitely helped. And as you see, I am gonna start layering in that meat mixture into each one, just evenly distributing that. And these stand and stuff taco shells can definitely hold a lot, which I really like. So these were definitely some hefty and meaty filling tacos. I really like this method of cooking them in a casserole dish. I feel like it definitely makes dinner time less chaotic. Everybody can just slap a couple tacos on their plate and just add the toppings as they want. But typically on most nights, when I cook, I will start by making the kids' plates, and then a lot of times I will make my husband's plate after, and then I will make my plate last. But by the time I sit down, it just seems like my food is already cooled down a lot, and I'm someone that likes my food piping hot. And not just, making everyone's plate beforehand, which is fine, by the way. But, I film these plates and then, I take pictures for the thumbnails, and it can just take a little bit more time than what you would expect. So that's why I really like this specific recipe, because, again, like I said, everyone can grab a couple and just, they're already made for you. I just think it's really super handy. I loved it. But I just topped those with some shredded cheese, and I popped them back in that 400-degree oven for about 10 minutes. And as you can see, they cook up perfectly. They're so beautiful. I got all of the toppings set out. We've got tomatoes, cilantro, jalapenos, shredded lettuce, sour cream, salsa, and taco sauce. So here in a second, I'm going to show y'all my plate. I even whipped out the paper plates this night, which I do not do often, and I know that my voice sounds crazy. I don't know if I'm getting sick or if it's allergies, but it's about to take me out. I hope y'all can bear with me. But for mine, I did sour cream, I did some hot salsa, jalapenos, cilantro, and shredded lettuce, and these were such a hit. Everyone was happy and got their belly full. Up next, I'm going to make a pizza tater tot casserole. So I just got a 32-ounce bag of frozen tater tots, dumping those out on a full-line cookie sheet, and I'm going to pop them in the oven at 425 degrees, and I'm just going to pre-bake those. So no certain time, just until everything else is done and until I need them. So you're definitely going to need like an oven-safe skillet. So I decided to just do this in my cast iron, and the recipe does call for a pound of Italian sausage. We have never been the biggest fan of that, so anytime a recipe calls for it, I swap it with some breakfast sausage. And this is actually some fresh sausage that my husband bought off a guy, so our freezer is full of that sausage. But you'll also need about an ounce of chopped up pepperonis. So I'm just tossing that in with that fully cooked sausage. Also, if you have a lot of grease, you'll definitely want to drain some of that off. But next, you're going to want to grab a jar of pizza sauce. We really like this Classico one. It's super good. So dumped all of that in. I also added a little bit of water to it, shook it up so that I could get every little bit of that sauce out, because one thing about me is I'm going to get my money's worth. So just going to make sure that's folded into all of that meat, and I'm just going to let that simmer for just a few minutes just to get everything all flavored up and good and simmered away. Then I'm going to grab a bag of sliced mozzarella cheese, and I ended up using, I believe I used 8 slices, but I'm just simply layering that all over top of the meat. So I did have to tear up that last piece to kind of cover up the corners that were showing. And I've said this before, but I've noticed anytime when I'm filming something that is white, it makes the exposure on my camera darken. It drives me crazy, but it's going to start brightening up, as you can see. But now I'm just taking those tater tots that I pulled from the oven, and I'm just layering that over the top of the cheese. I'm doing my best to make sure none of it's overlapping or anything. I did think about just taking that cookie sheet and just dumping it all on there to make it go faster, but those tater tots were not fully done. They weren't too crispy by this point or anything, so I did not want this all to end up being a big pile of mush, so I decided to just kind of take my time with it. It really didn't take all that long in real time. It is what it is. But now I'm going to grab a bag of shredded mozzarella cheese. This is a 2-cup bag, and I'm just going to dump all of that over the top. The way I like to do that is just kind of dump it all out in the middle and then just go in with my hands and get that spread out that way. And then lastly, I'm going to take some more pepperoni and just layer that over the cheese. I'm using turkey pepperoni. We all really like it, and I also really like how it's not nearly as greasy as regular pepperoni, so it's not going to be a huge puddle of oil on top. Maybe from the sausage, but not from the pepperoni. But lastly, I'm just going to hit it with some dried Italian seasoning, and then it's going to go back in that 425-degree oven, anywhere from 25 to 30 minutes. I think I actually ended up taking mine out around 23 minutes because I could smell it, and I knew it was cooking faster than what I was intending. But I think that is beautiful. Definitely looks like exactly what it says, a pizza tater tot casserole. It has been a long time since I have made any type of tater tot casserole. I know years ago that used to be a really big thing, but this was our first time having this one, and it was a hit. I did serve it with a side salad because we had leftover shredded lettuce and tomatoes from the baked tacos. So I just had to add some cheese and croutons, and I did end up making a homemade ranch earlier in the day to make it like extra good. I just do a cup of mayo, cup of buttermilk, and a ranch packet. Best restaurant style ranch ever. We love it. But this tater tot casserole was amazing. Definitely a new family favorite. Up next, I'm going to throw together some foil packets. This is something I used to love to do like years ago, but it has been forever since I've done this, and I just think it's fun. So I'm starting off with a little bag of baby red potatoes. I did wash them well, and I'm just taking them one by one and just slicing those in half. It's easier to eat that way. I feel like it a little bit more visually appealing, and it's also going to cut down on the cook time. So going to transfer those to a microwave safe bowl and pop that in the microwave for 6 minutes. That way they can kind of pre-cook and they won't take as long in the oven to finish. So next, I'm going to slice up a package of smoked sausage. This is something else that, there's so many different flavors and variations to it out there. I'm just going with the turkey smoked sausage. And another reason I'm doing that is, we've got a vacation coming up really soon. So I'm just trying to find like small ways to kind of cut down on the calories a little bit. I don't really like talking about that too much because in the past, people seem to get really offended. And, I'm definitely not trying to do that. But anyways, next up, I'm going to grab some fresh ears of corn. I've got 2 here, as you can see. I shucked it, washed it. I can always break it in half easily with my hands, but anything smaller than that, I always have difficulty with. So just taking a knife to it wasn't doing it, so I went to TikTok and learned that you can turn it around and tap it on your cutting board and it'll break it in half that way. So I thought that was pretty cool. But now I'm just going to grab a large mixing bowl. I'm going to add in those pre-cooked potatoes as well as the corn and that sliced up smoked sausage. And then I'm just going to get this coated in a little bit of olive oil. And I'm going to season it up with this Slap Your Mama Cajun seasoning. You can sub that with Old Bay if you wanted to. I'm also going to go in with just some regular sea salt as well as some black pepper. Now, you're supposed to add garlic powder and minced garlic, but I completely forgot during this step. I will be adding it to the packets in a little bit. You'll see that, but my mind was completely scrambled because I'm going to be cooking with shrimp. If you watch my other videos, you know that I don't cook with shrimp. I don't eat shrimp personally, but my family likes it, so I'm trying to start incorporating that more often. Now, they're used to like breaded, like popcorn shrimp, so they don't really eat like naked shrimp like this, but I just kind of want to, see if that's their thing. And my husband really liked it. My son absolutely loved it. That was his favorite part of the whole meal. And, my daughter does like popcorn shrimp, but the naked shrimp was a little bit too much for her. She could eat it, but, it wasn't her favorite. And I didn't even try it, if I'm being honest. I just left the shrimp out of mine. Now, as you can see, I did mix that shrimp in a separate bowl. I only did that because of my weirdness for seafood. But, if everyone in your house likes shrimp, you can definitely mix that in the same bowl as everything else to make it even easier. But I just simply, oiled it up. I oiled it up and seasoned it the same way as I did everything else. So got 4 big pieces of tin full out since we are a family of 4. And I'm just going to evenly distribute everything. I'm just going to show you the one since, they're all basically the same except for mine. Here I'm going in with that garlic powder, also about a tablespoon of butter. And I am going to squeeze a little bit of lemon juice into each packet. And I did forget the minced garlic again, which you'll see me add it here in a little bit. But the way I fold these up is I just take the long pieces and pull it up, and then I just start rolling down tightly. And then you definitely want to make sure that the sides are completely sealed and closed off. You don't want any air holes or anything. You want it to be completely sealed so it steams properly. Now, as soon as I pull that in the oven, that's when I realized I forgot the minced garlic. So I just opened it back up, added it back in there, and these are going to cook at 425. The recipe said anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. I had to do 25 minutes because I bought jumbo shrimp and they just were not done in the 20 minutes. So Still, 25 minutes is not bad. There's mine without the shrimp. Just a very simple meal to make. And, I haven't mentioned it yet, but you can obviously throw these on the grill to cook. So I just think this is such a fun, like, dinner idea, especially in the summertime. Up next, I'm going to be making some chicken bacon ranch wraps. Now, this is another thing that it has been a long time since I have made these, and it has just been sounding so good. I knew it would be the perfect thing to add to this video for like a really quick like lunch or dinner, really. So the first thing I'm going to do is cook up my bacon. So I'm just using my favorite one. It's the Fisher's bacon, and I just like the regular cut. I'm not big on a thick cut anymore. This is just our preference. But when I'm cooking it in a large batch, which I pretty much always have to now, at my kids' age and everything, and plus, like, bacon is one of my daughter's like all-time favorite foods. My son won't really eat it unless it's like hidden in something like a soup, but still, I pretty much always make a pretty good sized batch. So my favorite way to do that is in the oven. That way I don't have to like stand over the stove and just do it in several batches. It's just, this is the easiest, best way in my opinion. So I like to do it on a parchment lined cookie sheet. And I can't fit the whole package on this tray. I also don't always cut the bacon in half, but that's just kind of what I've been doing lately. But I'm going to pop that in a cold oven, and I'm going to crank it up to 400 degrees and set a timer for 25 minutes. And it cooks up so beautifully every single time, perfectly crispy. So I'm just going to transfer that to a paper towel lined plate. And now I'm going to get started on the chicken. So nothing crazy. I'm going to do this very simply. I'm just taking 2 boneless, skinless chicken breasts. I did go ahead and trim off all the fat and just all those little pieces that you wouldn't necessarily want to eat. And then I do like to take the chicken and slice it in half. That way I have 4 equal size pieces. It's very rare that I ever like cook up a whole chicken breast that's uncut. I only do that if I want to like shred it for casseroles or anything like that, but we much prefer it sliced this way. Otherwise, I feel like it's just too much chicken, and it gets seasoned better this way, I think. So anyways, I'm going in with very simple seasonings. We're just doing salt, pepper, onion, and garlic powder. I'm going to take the back of my fork here in a second and pat those seasonings in, and I'm not going to season the other side until I get them in my skillet. So whipping out my large skillet, I'm adding in some olive oil and just a little bit of butter. Once that was nice and hot and melted, I'm going to go ahead and place my chicken in, seasoned side down. And this particular pan always holds all of my chicken in perfectly because, you never want to overcrowd your pan, but now I'm going to go in and season that other side the same way. So the salt, pepper, onion, and garlic powder. You could also grill up this chicken to make it a little extra special. But I've been having a hard time lately trying to find a good day to grill anything because although it has heated up, it seems like it's always raining, like pouring down the rain and high wind. It's just been crazy lately. But anyways, my chicken is done. Didn't take long at all. I'm going to let it rest, and I'm going to grab my tortillas. So I am going to heat those up in the microwave, and I'm just going to place those in my Pampered Chef tortilla warmer. I got this from a friend's Pampered Chef party. And it's just going to keep the tortillas warm as I am working on them one by one. But while those are in the microwave, I'm going to go ahead and slice up my chicken. And the way I like to do that is I like to cut it in half. That way it's not in really long pieces. And then I like to turn it around and cut it against the grain. I'm telling you, it does make a difference. Since I have learned that, it has been such a game changer. Definitely affects how tender the chicken is going to be. When I do it this way, we just like it 10 times more. It's the truth. So I'm going to show y'all how I assembled mine. So I've got a warm tortilla, a piece of green leaf lettuce. I'm doing a good handful of that perfectly cooked sliced chicken. I'm going in with some of my homemade ranch that I had left over from the salads a couple nights prior. Going in with some sharp cheddar cheese and then just a couple pieces of that crispy bacon. So simple, but we just thought this was the best thing ever because, again, it's just not something that we have very often. I served it with a pickle on the side and a handful of some plain baked chips, and it was just the best little meal. And, I feel like this is something I'm definitely going to repeat a lot over the summer. As I'm talking right now, today is the kids' last day of school, so I'm just so excited for the summer with them. This last meal seriously blew me away. This is going to be a creamy tomato pasta. So I started off by boiling up 8 ounces of some penne pasta in some boiling salted water over there to the left. And while that's cooking, I'm going to go ahead and make a quick sauce to coat it in. So I started off by melting down a couple tablespoons of butter, and then I threw in a big spoonful of minced garlic. I'm just using the stuff from the jar, and I sauteed that for about a minute. It started to brown pretty quickly, so I quickly went ahead and added in about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Now, I always like to saute down my tomato paste for a couple of minutes before adding anything else in. But now I'm going to go ahead and add in just 1 can of some regular tomato sauce. Anytime I see tomato sauce on sale at the store, I like to grab a few because it's just one of those things that I love to always have on hand in my pantry. And after this recipe, definitely going to have to stock up. But I also added in about 3/4 of a cup of heavy cream, a 1/4 teaspoon of Italian seasoning, and I'm just going to get everything combined real good. And once it gets to the color I like, I did let that simmer for about 5 minutes to kind of thicken. And then lastly, I just hit it with some salt and black pepper to taste. I also went in with a little bit of sugar to balance everything out. So getting that mixed in good. And then this isn't in the recipe, but I did have some fresh spinach in my fridge. So I decided to go ahead and add a couple handfuls in there of it. And I'm really glad that I did that. We really liked it. It's a great way to kind of sneak in some veggies for my kids. Sometimes they mind like hidden spinach, but this night they did not. So that was great. But now this homemade sauce is done. So I'm just going to add in that cooked and drained pasta and just get everything folded together. I promise you guys, this seriously tasted like something from like a really nice restaurant that I would have overpaid for. I would not have ever expected that those simple ingredients would make something so good. It kind of reminded me of a vodka pasta, which is one of my favorite things ever, but obviously it doesn't have the pasta. And it's been a long time since we've done like a meatless dinner, so that made this like extra budget friendly. And I've got this Parmesan cheese that I went ahead and sprinkled on top of each of our bowls, and I served it with some toasted cheddar jalapeno sourdough bread that I had in my freezer that I got at Costco. Just toasted that up, and it comes in long pieces, so I cut it in half and put it in each of our bowls, and it just paired so perfectly with this. Again, I cannot brag on this recipe enough. It was just so incredibly good. I will definitely be remaking that. But that is going to wrap up this video. I really hope that it was helpful for you. I hope that something in here appealed to you, and as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope to see you all in my next video. Hope y'all have a good weekend. See you next time.